I once heard a quote by a very famous man, and he said, "The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so." What I'm going to talk to you about today is something you may think you know, but I bet you any money I'm going to shed some light on this topic. And that topic is none other than the current modern monetary theory of economics. So what exactly is modern monetary theory economics, and how will knowing it help you build wealth? So in this video, I'm going to give you a modern monetary theory 101 crash course. Sounds fun, doesn't it? We're going to cover the three main types of economics so that you can decide for yourself, and you can compare all three economic theories, because once you understand them, you'll understand why we're in trouble right now, but you'll also understand how to play this game. So I'm going to give you 3 to 5 facts on each one of these theories. And I'm going to start with my favorite, Austrian Economics. You see, the Austrians believe that savings are fundamental to growth. Well, that just makes freaking logical sense now, doesn't it? Austrian economics work on the assumption that the markets operate efficiently, and that they'll normally come to the best outcome given time. Therefore, they believe in minimal government intervention or small government intervention. That sounds good, doesn't it? The government not getting mixed up and intermingled in everything we do. Austrians might have been onto something with that. The Austrians also believe that inflation as a result of increase in the money supply is harmful. Interesting. Inflation, harmful. Inflation, harmful. Whoa, we're living in a period of time right now when inflation is pretty freaking harmful, and it's all because of the money supply. $5.1 trillion. Let's get back into it. Austrians are typically proponents of sound money. Ooh, now that sounds good. Sound money refers to the maintaining a currency that is not prone to sudden appreciation or depreciation. Now, we don't have any of that today, because the US dollar, the euro, all of those, boy, are those prone to sudden appreciation and depreciation. I've seen it happen over and over. But sound money is money that does not have those big appreciation and depreciations. Now, we could go back to when money was backed by gold. It was a little bit more sound than it is today. But today we have fiat money, which is really based on just the full faith and credit of the country that we live in. And not only that, our investor sentiment when it comes to what it should be worth. So let's move on to Keynesian economics. The Keynesians, on the other hand, believe that spending or aggregate demand is the most important determinant of economic growth. The Keynesians, on the other hand, believe markets are inherently inefficient, complete opposite of what Austrian economics says. And it's the role of the government to counteract those inefficiencies through active policy. So now all of a sudden, this economic theory says that the government should intermingle, should get involved because, oh my gosh, the market's left on their own, they're inefficient. So we're going to do policies that make sure that we close those inefficiencies. How's that seem to work? How has that worked in the last decade? Anyway, we'll get to that. The Keynesians, on the other hand, argued that a steady rate of modest inflation is good for the growing economy. I tend to differ with that, but they're saying that a little bit of inflation is good. I guess you could kind of go both ways there. The Keynesians typically prefer to operate within a fiat monetary system. Fiat currency is one that is issued by a government that is not backed at all by a hard asset like gold. So this is the world that we live in, right? So when we came off the gold standard, we went into the fiat currency standard. And there is no standard there. It's basically just the government saying that the money's worth what it is, but it really has no value other than what the paper that it's printed on is worth. Oh, the good old days, gosh. Many of you are probably too young to remember when your money was actually backed by gold, when this country actually had a backbone, when this country is actually the strongest, best country in the world, which it still is. But this next part will make you really question where it's going. It leads me to the final chapter of this episode. We're going to talk about the current economic theory that's kind of just landed, or should I say, back a couple years ago, coming to a theater near you. Well, it's already come to the theater. It didn't debut very well, and it's not being watched at all, but it's still being used. And what I'm talking about is modern monetary theory economics. So let me be very clear, and I'm going to talk slower with this one because this is what we're faced with today. Modern monetary theory says that large government debt isn't the precursor to collapse. And it also says that we have been led to believe that it is. So you see what they just did? Large government debt is not the precursor to collapse that we've been led to believe that it is. So they're almost saying, well, large government debt in the past has led to collapses, which indeed it has, but that's what you were told to believe. So we're telling you that it's not. Okay, that's wacky. So countries like the US, well, I guess they say we can sustain a greater deficit without cause for concern. In other words, we can just keep printing money, running up debt, and, we're going to be okay. Nobody else in the past matters anymore because we are the champions. And they're saying that there's no cause for concern. And then they go on to say, now this is almost like that double negative. Now a small deficit or a small surplus, now that can be extremely harmful and can cause a recession since the deficit spending is what builds people's savings. I'm sorry, but excuse me? Did I just hear what they just said? That doesn't make any logical sense at all. A small deficit or a small surplus can be extremely harmful and can cause a recession since a deficit spending is what builds people's savings? Oh, so you don't want people to build savings. You just want the government to be in control. The government's going to fix everybody's problems. Wait a second. Isn't that communism? Oh, wait, no. This is modern monetary theory economics. Chris, got to get it straight. But it does sound a lot like communism. The government can do everything right. The government makes all the rules. The government says what we should and should not do. No, but this is the U.S., so all right, let's do this. Let's go back to the beginning. Let me just read these really quickly to you, and then you can decide which one you think makes the most amount of sense. Austrian Economics. The Austrians believe that savings are fundamental to growth. Makes logical sense. The Austrian Economics works on the assumption that the markets operate efficiently and that they normally will come to the best outcome given time, meaning leave the markets alone and they're going to sort themselves out. Okay? Well, I've never seen that in my life, but sounds like it could work. And therefore, they believe that minimal government intervention or small government intervention is key. The Austrians also believe that inflation as a result of increase in money supply is bad. They say it's harmful. The Austrians are typically proponents of sound money, which would be money backed by something, not money that's just out there and not backed by anything. Sound money, not prone to sudden appreciation or depreciation. Okay, so we got Austrian economics. Now let's hit the second one. Keynesian economics, on the other hand, says that they believe that spending or aggregate demand is the most important determinant of economic growth. Then they go on to say that they believe the markets are inherently inefficient and that it is the role of the government to counteract these inefficiencies through active policies. Sounds like they're taking control away from us, taking control away from the markets and playing God. Anyway, the Keynesians also argue that a steady rate of modest inflation is good for a growing economy. And then they go on to say that they can operate in a fiat monetary system, and fiat currency is one that is issued by governments and is not backed by anything. Okay, so that's that economic theory. And now we have the dog shit economic theory that we have today. But I'll let you make that decision. Modern monetary theory economics. Large government debt isn't bad. Large government debt does not result in a collapse of the economy. Okay, that's what they're just saying that that's what we've been led to believe. Well, Greece and Rome and China, and the old Chinese Empire, Britain, they all went down because of what they just said we've been led to believe. So we shouldn't listen to history anymore. We should just listen to them because they are the almighties. But anyway, they go on to say that countries like the United States of America were so good that we can sustain much greater deficits. And, there's no cause for concern whatsoever. A small deficit or surplus actually is harmful. And, that would actually result in people saving money. So what are you supposed to believe? which one would you say sounded the most logical? And which one would you like to live under? Well, I'm siding for Austrian economics, but we live in modern monetary theory, so I'll let you be that decision maker. But while you're at it, heck, since you're making a decision, why don't you make another decision to watch this video? How am I supposed to deal with inflation? Well, I don't know. Watch the dumb video if you want to figure it out, because you probably need to know how to deal with inflation. We had a little inflation problem, but I guess that's okay, says Modern Monetary Theory Economics. Folks, if you like this, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and click that alerts button so that you're notified every single time. Thank you for watching Modern Monetary Theory. Actually, I'm signing on for Austrian Economics. See you on the next one.